I wish there was a way to set this thing on automatic record. Okay. Okay, who are you, Omer? He used to say, Ayilodim lamus. Now again, everybody should be able to see the, on the side in the chat, should be able to see the Mishnah. By the way, if you want to get the Mishnah on your own, devices, either your phone or your computer, then just go to Google, type in the words Pirkei. It doesn't matter how you spell it. Pirkei Avos 4:20, and then just to make it easier, write the word Sefaria, Sefaria, and that will take you to a site called Sefaria. It should open up right away into the Mishnah. If you see on that site in Sefaria, you will see that it says that you have a choice to do. There's like in the left-hand corner of the text, you'll see an aleph and an English A. If you press that, so then you get a few menu choices, and then you could set it up either column by column, or in Hebrew and English. If it only comes up, let's say Hebrew, let's say it only comes up with an aleph, so then you just press the one with an aleph and an A, and you'll get both English and Hebrew. And you'll get the text bigger, and it just might be a little bit easier for you to be able to see the text. But nevertheless, if you don't want to do that, if you want to be able to see the screen, so then again, just look to the side at the chat, click chat, and you'll see that I put up the Mishnah. I'm going to put it up one more time for anybody that joined after I put it up. So the Mishnah is now up there twice. Okay. So Huayomer used to say, Hayilodim lamus. Those who are born are destined to die. Va'mesim lahachios. And the dead are going to be brought back to life. V'hachayim lidon. And those who are alive are going to be judged. Leda, to know. Lehodia, to make known. Ulehivada, and to let it be known. Shehu el, that God is God. Hu ayotzer, he is the creator. Hu abore, he's the maker, he is the creator. Hu amaven, he is the one who understands. Hu adayon, he is the judge. Hu aid, he is the witness. Hu baal din, he is the plaintiff. Hu asid ladun baruch hu, and he is the one who is going to judge us in the future. She'ein lefanav, because there is not before him lo avla v'lo shikha. There is no injustice. There is no instance of forgetting. V'lo masopanim, and there is no favoritism. Lo mekach shochad, there is no taking of bribes. Shakol shalo, because everything belongs to him. Vida, shakol lefi cheshbon, and understand that everything is part of the calculation. V'al yavtiach yitzrecha, and do not let your yetzer, your inclination, promise you that the Sheol beis moneslach, that the grave is a place of refuge for you. Shal karchacha atanotzar, because you were created against your will. Al karchacha atanolad, against your will you were born. Al karchacha atachai, against your will you live. V'al karchacha atames, and against your will you're going to die. V'al karchacha ata asid li tein din v'cheshbon, and in the future you're going to be forced to give a din v'cheshbon lifnei melech malchei amlachim hakadosh baruch hu, to give a reckoning before the King of all kings, the Holy One, blessed be He. Aren't you glad you came tonight? What a happy Mishnah. Hey, isn't that great? I'm going to die. Wow, so awesome. It's so inspiring. I'm so uplifted. What in the world is going on in this Mishnah? before I even touch a very, very, very fascinating, important, exciting concept, before I even touch that, I just want to know in the simplest of ways, before I start to dissect every one of these statements that are made here, which that's why it might take me a little while, because you have to dissect and look at every single one of these. What exactly is the point of this Mishnah? For those of you that have been studying Pirkei Avos for any length of time, every one of the messages that you can imagine that this Mishnah is telling you, you have studied already. In chapter 1, in chapter 2, in chapter 3, that there is a God, that he has expectations, that he is going to take us to task, that he is going to keep a reckoning, that we're not going to be able to hide from him. All that stuff has been dealt with in spades. Plus, we know that this is not meant to frighten us. Judaism does not work that way. We don't work in a way that we frighten a person into keeping mitzvahs. You know, if I scare the pants off you, so then maybe you'll keep mitzvahs. It's not the way it works. We're not interested in scaring. We're not interested in depressing you so that you say, "Oh my God, I guess I don't have a choice. I have to keep mitzvahs." That's not what the game is about. So, what is the point that the Mishnah is trying to make, and why isn't this just considered what we say pshita? That it's considered something that's obvious, and that God is the maker and He's the creator. Right? If you look at that second line, so that you should know, Lohodia livada, to know, to make it known, to be known, that he's the Yotzer, the Borei, the Maven, that he is the creator and the maker and the understander. He's the judge and the wit. Like, what is all of that? It's obvious that's who God is. We believe fundamentally that God created this world. He's the maker of this world. He's the judge of this world. These are fundamental beliefs. You can't be Jewish without these beliefs. So if that's the case, what is the Mishnah? What's the point? And please remember that the Mishnah is not just telling me facts that I would have known otherwise. We have said numerous amounts of times in Ethics of the Fathers in Pirkei Avos that if the Mishnah is teaching it to me, if this found its way into this thing called Mishnah, if it found its way into the oral Torah, it means that it's here because it's something you would not have been able to figure out otherwise. The way that we're seeing this Mishnah right now, there is nothing that is being presented here that I could not have known without this Mishnah. So what is going on? Okay. So many people live with a misconception. The concept of reward and punishment in Judaism, you know, when we have the 13 divine attributes of faith, not the divine attributes of mercy, that's the Hashem Kel Rachum V'Chanun Nerech Hapayim V'Rav Chesed V'Yamet Notzeh Chesed La'alafim Nosei Yavam V'Afesha. Those are the 13 divine attributes of mercy. But we have a thing called the 13 divine attributes of faith, things that we believe in. The 13 principles by which we create our Judaism. Maimonides put forth this idea of the 13 attributes of faith. Maimonides taught them in one of his works. They were shortened and put in a concise form in what's called the Ani Mamins. If you look at the end of Shacharit on a daily basis in your Art Scroll Siddur, you will see printed the 13 Ani Mamins. There are many people that declare them every single day. I believe with a firm belief. Now, most people here recognize one of them, right? Ani Mamin be'emunah shlema bevias HaMashiach. I believe with firm belief in the coming of Messiah. Now, that is not just a song that we sing or a chant that we say in order to that people should believe that we believe in the coming of Messiah, but that's actually a declaration of faith, a basic declaration of faith. Now, if you look carefully at those 13, the first group of them have to do with a belief in God. And it's all the things you need to know about God, that he has no body and that God has no form and no shape, and the belief that he is the creator, that he was, that he is, he always will be, he's eternal, he is the only thing in the world that exists. Everything else is a dependent existence. Great. All of those basics of God, that's the first group. The second group is a belief in prophecy and ultimately a belief in Moses and a belief in the Torah and a belief that the Torah came from God and a belief that that's what our lives are founded on and that they're based on Torah. And that second group is ultimately all about Torah. Those two beliefs, every person I think understands that you cannot have a Judaism without that. You can't have a Judaism without God. You can't have a Judaism without Torah. Torah is not just a set of rules. Torah is God's plan and design for the world, the purpose of the world. We all know that before we say the Shema every day, we say two blessings. The first blessing is Yotzer HaMa'orot. It's a very long blessing. It goes from Baruch Hu until Yotzer HaMa'orot. And then we say a shorter blessing, avilable. Blessed are you, God, who loves the Jewish people. And then we say the Shema. Those two blessings are the fundamental principles you need to know before you say the Shema and accept upon yourself the yoke of heaven. The first principle is that there is a God who created the world. And the second principle is he created it for a purpose. We believe in Torah because Torah is the purpose of the world. It's the purpose for which God created the world. Beautiful. But what's the third section of the Ani Mamins, where we talk about Messiah and we talk about those things? It's the concept of reward and punishment. And why is the concept of reward and punishment the fundamental principle in Judaism? If you don't have God, then you have no purpose in Judaism. If you don't have a Torah, then you have no purpose for the world. But why do I need to have reward and punishment? Because it's critical to understand that it matters, that what you do, what we do, makes a difference. And that if we don't have a concept of reward and punishment, then we have a God that could care less. There are no consequences. And if there are no consequences, why would I bother? Why am I going to knock myself out doing this stuff if it doesn't really make a difference? You know, a child whose parent gives a lot of rules, and a parent who has an expectation of a child to come home at a certain time, and they say to the child that if you don't come home at a certain time, you're going to be grounded. So a lot of times parents get nervous, especially in California and especially in the year 2020. Parents get very, very nervous saying anything to their child. And that's only indicative of society, that people are nervous about saying anything to anybody. Lady calls up New York City. I was reading an article that there happens to be a proliferation right now of, in New York City, of fireworks. It's getting close to July 4th, excuse me. There's a lot of fireworks, and the police are petrified of doing anything because if they say something, they could end up A, in a YouTube video, B, in jail, C, out of a job, D, dead, or E, all of the above. So they're petrified of answering any calls. This was a recorded 911 call. You know, hello, you've received, you've reached 911, emergency services, whatever they say. And the lady says, I'm feeling very uncomfortable as I'm walking through my neighborhood. I think I need help. There is fireworks going off all over the place, and there's gunshots, and I just feel unsafe. And the lady on the other end says to her, ma'am, welcome to New York. There's nothing we can do. Wow. Welcome to the world. We're afraid to say anything to anybody. When a parent is afraid to say something to a child, the danger that exists is not that the child is going to grow up feeling strong and confident. It's not going to be the child grows up feeling that, somebody cares about me, that it matters what I do. The child is going to grow up with a sense of lawlessness and disconnection. God built into the system a concept of reward and punishment that we should understand that these things that he's asking us to do are valuable, important. They are the best things for our lives. They are the best way for us to live. And if we don't live that way, our lives will be impaired. He's not trying to threaten us by telling us there's reward and punishment. He's not trying to hold something over our heads to tell us that there's reward and punishment. It's to underscore the fact that this is something critical and there's somebody out there that cares. It matters whether we keep them or we don't. Well, for most people, I think the way that we view punishment is that it's God's way of getting us back for not doing something right. Now, why do I believe that many people think that way? Because what do we do when, God forbid, something goes wrong? We don't look to see what message is God sending me. We say, God's punishing me for something. It's our go-to. It's our natural reaction to things. You know, you see somebody else, something terrible happens to them. You say, I wonder what they must have done. God's really getting them. Because we look at it as God's way. We assume that punishment and suffering, that we assume that that's part of God's vengeance for the avera, for the transgression that we've done. And that if a person doesn't get punished, so then it leads to another thing. Let's say a person knows they've done something wrong. They stole something, and through their lifetime, nothing goes wrong. They're making a beautiful living. They're everything about their life seems to be perfect. After a while, they start to think that, you know what, must be that God forgot about it. And the reason that God forgot about the thing that I did when I was younger is because at the end of the day, I've done so much good in my life that the good has just diluted all of that negativity, all of the terrible things that I've done. And therefore, the terrible things that I might have done in my youth, the terrible things that I might have done even in my middle age, but since God didn't take care of them then, he must have been waiting to see whether I was going to continue in that kind of lifestyle or whether I become a better person. And I've in general become a better person. And therefore, I don't have to worry. There's going to be no vengeance. I don't have to worry. God's not going to take it out of me. Those two ideas, that when we suffer, that when things go wrong, when we do something wrong, that there is a concept of punishment. Ultimate punishment really is not here in this world anyway. Ultimate punishment we know is in Olam Haba. But in this world, I tend to think that, again, if nothing's happening to me, then I'm not being punished. And that punishment is really just a way of God evening the score. And that's not what it is. The concept that we have of punishment in the Torah, and we'll understand by the end of tonight why it's important to discuss this. Those of you that know me know that we never discuss punishments. We never discuss punishments. We never discuss, this is going to happen to you if you don't do this. It's in the Torah, but we don't discuss it in the sense that that's not the motivation. It's not the reason we do things. But it's nevertheless got to be there. We got to know that there is this structure. There is this institution called reward and punishment, but we have to understand exactly what it is. And reward and punishment comes about because we need to understand that every time we do a transgression, every time God has an expectation of us and we come up short to that expectation, we have brought something evil in the world. Going against God, doing something that is devoid of God, something that is an action, but it's an action that's empty and disconnected from God, brings a thing called tumah, impurity. Purity is connection to God, connection to life. When you take God away, so then by definition, what you're left with is tumah, is impurity, emptiness. We find the same kind of concept in the laws of family purity, that we know that when a woman menstruates, she becomes tameh, she becomes impure. What does that mean, she becomes impure? It's not dirty. There's nothing wrong with her. But it means that she becomes impure because she was carrying a potential life inside of her. And when that life leaves her, what's left in its wake, life is tahara, is purity, it's connection to God. When a potential life passes through her body, what's left in its wake, the void that is left behind it, is called tumah, is called impurity. And that's what happens. She becomes impure and then goes to the mikvah to be able to repurify. But that's the concept. When you come out of a cemetery, what do? You wash your hands 3 times on each hand. Because what happened when you were in a cemetery? You became tameh, you became impure, because you came in contact with death, you came in contact with emptiness, with disconnection from life, disconnection from holiness. And therefore, what was left in its wake was a thing called tumah. Every time I speak Lashon Hara, every time I say something that shouldn't be said, every time I hurt another person's feelings, every time I transgress something that the Torah has an expectation of me to do, and I don't live up to that expectation, I bring tumah into this world. Now, we learned this already. We've learned this in this chapter, that I create a praklit echad. I create an angel on my behalf, which is a negative angel. I create a negative force in this world. But because I created a negative force in this world, it means that I have to remove that negative force in this world, that I have to cleanse that negative force in this world. There are two ways for me to cleanse it. I can take, you draw graffiti on a wall. So there are two ways. You can either go to jail, or you can take you could take a can and you can repaint over the spray painted graffiti that you made. You can fix it. God gave us a can that we can go over to every avera, every transgression that we have done, and we can paint over it. Sometimes we don't even need to paint over it. Sometimes we just need to spray it and it disappears. And that can is called tshuva, repentance. But sometimes the thing that we've done is so bad, brought in such a large amount of tumah, impurity into this world, that it didn't only affect us, but affected people around us. And that the people around us were affected by our tumah, by our impurity. That we brought down other people. That the action that I did wasn't just contained within me, but it was something that was contained, and it was like a virus. It affected many, many other people. So sometimes tshuva is not going to completely eradicate the radiation that comes from the toxic thing that I had done and brought into this world. And therefore, what's going to be necessary is that only through my death, and sometimes not even my death, sometimes my suffering in this world, sometimes my death, and sometimes even in what's going to take place in the world to come, that cleansing is only going to take place then. Sometimes the deed that I've done is so large, it's so huge, that it's going to require suffering in this world, it's going to require death, and it's going to require also the cleansing in the afterlife, the cleansing in the next world. But all of that is part of the system. Well, it's no punishment. It's not punishment as we know it. We think of punishment as being retribution. We think of punishment as being the vengeance. And that's not what punishment is. Punishment is cleansing. It's messages so that I can fix myself up, and that I can cleanse. I can cleanse my world. I can cleanse my soul. I can cleanse the world of that negativity that I brought into it. I damaged the fabric of the world by doing something wrong, and it needs to be rectified. We don't look at that in the American system. Person did a crime, they did a crime. You need to suffer for that crime. There is a certain amount of retribution. You did something wrong in society, now you have to suffer for it. We don't look at it as being that you have damaged the world that you live in, and therefore the way to clean that up is by you going through an experience, and that's going to clean that up. We don't look at it that way. We hope that when you come out the other end, you're not going to do it again and find yourself back in there. But it's not you rehabilitating and cleansing, and not just you, but the whole world that you're in, because everything you do affects the world, the quality and the fabric of the world that you live in. This is something that really is exclusively Jewish, exclusively Torah. And that's what the Mishna is trying to tell us. The Mishna is trying to tell us that we have to understand that in the end, Hayulodim lamus v'hamesim lahachios, that we are going down, we're coming back up again. And in order to do that, we need to be cleansed of the things that we do and understand that there is a system to this world. God is the maker. He is the creator. He fashioned the world. He fashioned it with infinite wisdom. And the whole thing works on his wisdom. Everything is calculated. God doesn't forget. You can't hide from him. If you cause something negative, he doesn't need to take it out of your hide now. It could be that this is going to happen much later. And the same works with positive things. We don't always see the results of the positive things that we do immediately, but we will see them. There is nothing positive that we have done in our lifetime that does not bear fruit. Not one thing. God doesn't ignore the things that we do. And as chapter 4 ends, as the tone of the Mishna of saying that you have to worry about your ethical development, you have to worry about your character, worry about the kind of person that you are and that you are becoming, understand that it matters. It makes a difference, and that you don't have forever to fix it. You don't have forever to make it better. You don't have forever to create yourself and to make yourself into something. And understand, though, that you will be taken to task for everything, and therefore, better you should use the method of tshuva, of repentance, than any of the other methods that God will use in order to be able to cleanse the world of that negativity, cleanse the world of that damage that you brought into the world. Step number 1. Don't leave yet. Because let's go back to those opening words of the Mishnah. And I think that's all I want to deal with now for the next couple of minutes. And then we'll see this come together. You know, you show up at 8:15 on a Monday night, and the first words you get smacked in the face with is Hayilodim Yitlamos. Every single person that's born in this world is going down. Every single person born in this world is going to die. On what level could that possibly make me a better person? If Pirkei Avos is there to make me a better person, I understand the general outlook on the Mishnah that I just gave, that everything matters, everything counts, God's watching. Just because you seem to have gotten away with it, you're not getting away with everything, with anything. Okay, I get that. But now I want to look at the Mishnah. I want to look at the words. What are those words telling me? You know, there's a famous story in the Gemara that there was a rabbi at a chasna who was asked to sing a song. So imagine, you know, the crowd is there, hundreds of people at this wedding, and the band starts to strike up the music, da-dun, da-dun, dun, dun, and the guy grabs the mic, and he sings a song to the words, not having a gila, Vailon demi-son, Vailon demi-son. Woe is to us because we're going to die. Woe is to us because we're going to die. Like, you can imagine, guy standing in the middle of a wedding, singing a song, you're going to die, you're going to die. There's something very weird about it. And it was considered an amazing song. Did you get those lyrics? Wow. I mean, just, I love to play that movie in my mind of what that must have looked like. Like people, you know, imagine like jaws dropped. People are thinking, really? By the way, do you know one of the reasons that we break a plate at a wedding? And, you know, we break a glass under the chuppah as a reminder of the destruction of a temple. But there's another reason. We have a custom also earlier in the wedding to break a plate. You know why we do that? Because there was another rabbi who used to, at weddings, take very fine glass, fine crystal, and you would just smash it in the middle of the wedding. Boy, that's a good shtick. You know, some people bounce things on their noses, some people juggle stuff, and other people break glass dishes at a wedding. Wow. What's going on? Well, and that was considered an appropriate, joyous thing to do at a wedding. I'm going to toss on another question, a little bit unrelated, but you'll see in a moment that it's not unrelated at all. You know, every holiday, we end the holiday in a very beautiful way. Yizkor. Now, for those of you that do not say Yizkor, you sort of have no idea what I'm talking about, because Yizkor is that break that you've been looking for. You know, you show up to shul on Yontif, and this way you get a little sanctioned break, where you get to stand outside. It's beautiful. But that for those that say Yizkor ain't no break. Yizkor is just it's so sometimes out of whack. V'samachta b'chagecha, be happy and joyous in your festival. And then at the crescendo of the joy of the festival, which is the last day of the festival, the last hours of the joy, you sit Shiva. For the couple of minutes that you're saying Shiva and you're remembering your parents, you bring yourself right back to the worst moments of your life. It's hard to understand how that fits into the concept of V'samachta b'chagecha. Be rejoiced, be happy on your festival. You know, the Vilna Gaon says, you know what the most difficult mitzvah in the Torah is? So many people would say, you're keeping Shabbos. That's, a good challenge. Kashrus. Other people would say, speaking Lashon Hara. That one's like hell for me. But that's not the most difficult mitzvah in the Torah. Honoring your parents, according to most authorities. But I'll tell you one the Vilna Gaon says is even harder. V'samachta b'chagecha. Be happy on your festivals. That's a commandment in the festival of Sukkot. It says it twice. And on the festival of Sukkot, how many days is the festival of Sukkot? 7 days. Say the commentaries, we can't be happy for 7 minutes. How are we supposed to make it through 7 days? What would be one of the things, a piece of advice you would give to somebody to stay happy for 7 days? Well, I don't know, you'd give them a lot of advice, but I'll tell you one thing you would tell them not to do. Don't think of sad things. You want to stay happy, don't think of sad things. Just have good thoughts, have happy thoughts. But you should say Yizkor. It doesn't make sense. Everybody's got it, like it's weird. It's like breaking a glass at a wedding. It's like standing up at a wedding, right, and using your best Frank Sinatra voice and singing Wohlgelernter Nissan. What's going on? So I'm going to tell you something now that I think is really incredible. When a person has an expectation, it doesn't make you happy when things work according to your expectation, because it's what you expected. I'm going to give you a couple of examples. A person is told they get a job and they're told that they're going to make an incredible salary. After a few paychecks, it doesn't bring them joy when they see their paycheck. They know they'll be able to put it away, do the savings, whatever they need to do with it, and it's all going to be fine. But there's no particular joy in it because it's what they expect. I expect to get this amount in my paycheck every month. I expect to make this kind of money, and therefore it doesn't bring me joy. It's expected. And then what brings them joy? The bonus. The thing that they weren't expecting, that's the thing that brings them joy. I'll give you another incredible example. Very often, we have an expectation that our parents, our grandparents, our siblings, our loved ones are going to be at our wedding. That by the time we get to that stage in our life that we're going to be married, we just expect that they're all going to be there. And when they actually show up, it doesn't bring us particular joy. We're happy that they're there, but we most often don't even stop to think about it because we expect it to be that way. Next week's parsha. They wake up one morning and they have no water. Miriam died. And they flip out because they had expected to wake up that morning and to find water coming from the well of Miriam, coming from the rock, and there was no water coming from the rock. And when your expectation is dashed, that's when you feel the most amount of pain. But when your expectation is fulfilled, It's what you expected. And it doesn't bring you any particular amount of joy. It doesn't make a person happy. And that's why we live amazing lives. And many people are just miserable. Because after a while, you come to expect that this is the way it's going to be. And therefore, when it happens that way, it doesn't make you any happier. It doesn't bring you any joy. Because all it's doing is fulfilling your expectations. Vailon demisan. Woe is to us because we're going to die is a reminder that nothing can be expected other than death. Nothing can be expected in this world. The fact that your mother, sister, grandchild is alive and well and with you at a simcha, at a Pesach, at a holiday, at a yontif, at a Rosh Hashanah, it's not expected. Every person that lived their life that expecting things to be a certain way got an incredible wake-up call without ever having to hear the words Vailon demisan. Woe is to us that death is coming. We got a wake-up call with Corona. Look at Pesach. We all had expectations. Pesach was supposed to be a certain way. And it was expected. It was a given. Nobody lent any thought to it. It was given. The kids are coming. You're coming. You're going to be there. We're going to be with each other. I'm coming to your house. You're coming to my house. It's an expectation. And then that expectation wasn't fulfilled. And that's why it was so devastating, because it didn't fulfill our expectation. But what would have happened if this Pesach was exactly what we had planned it to be? Would it have brought us joy? Yeah, a certain amount. It's nice to sit with friends and family. But would we have looked at it and said, holy schmoly, I'm the luckiest person in the world because God knows what could have happened. And the fact that you actually showed up at my door, I am so lucky. No, we don't stop to think that. Imagine if we did. Imagine if we didn't have expectations. I invite you to my house, but anything could happen between the time of the invitation and you're actually showing up. And when you walk in that door, I look at you and say, I could cry. I'm so happy. Well, what are you so happy about? You invited me for lunch. Why would I pass up a good meal? Of course I'm going to be there. No, because anything could have happened. Do you know what announcement I love the most when I fly? We know you could have chosen any other airlines. We appreciate you're wasting your money with us. I'm joking, but when they make that announcement that we know you could have, anything could have happened. You could have ended up on airline X or Y. You could have driven there. You could have walked there. You could have taken a bus there. You could have done what many other ways, but instead you chose to be with us. And I appreciate that because I had no expectations. And when I live my life without expectations, the joy and happiness that I have is incredible. Vailon demisan at a wedding reminded us, stop expecting things. The fact that this couple's getting married is a miracle. Rejoice in it. It's not expected. There is nothing. So they were going out for 10 years. Big deal. Anything could have happened. And because anything could have happened, feel a sense, an extra sense, a special sense of joy. Vailon demisan reminds us that we are mortal and that nothing in life is a given. It could end tomorrow. Things could be different. And therefore, everything that's happening is joyful because everything that's happening is a gift because it doesn't have to happen. It could be different. The game could be over in 15 minutes. And therefore, be happy because it's not expected. It's all a surprise. when you realize that you're not going to be around forever, when you hear those words, Vailon Demisan, when you see that beautiful, expensive thing break and it jars you into realizing that, you know what? Everything you have is a gift. Everything you have is special. Time is going to run out at some moment. Do it now. On Yontif, my moment of great joy, I say Yizkor, and it reminds me of my mortality. I'm not sitting Shiva. It doesn't bring me back. I'm not standing at the graveside. What it does is it reminds me that I, like my parents, like my siblings, like my spouse, like my child, I'm not going to be here forever. And therefore, it helps me maximize my simcha. Don't take it for granted. Don't just expect it to happen. And that's the tone that the Mishna is taking. When the Mishna starts off to tell us how you loidim lomus, it's not coming to say, let me depress the heck out of you. Let me make you sad now. No, let me make you happy. You're going to die. It is going to end at some point. And therefore, don't take it for granted. You are immortal. And therefore, anything that's happening to you is happening to you. Appreciate the fact that it's happening to you. Appreciate the fact that it doesn't have to be this way. You didn't need to make it to this day. It wasn't a given that you were going to make it to this day. And there's no given that you're going to make it to tomorrow. And when there are no givens, then every single thing is exciting. Why do we forget to say Moda Ani in the morning? Ask any Jew that knows anything about Judaism. What are we supposed to say when we wake up in the morning? Everybody says, Moda Ani lefanecha. How come when we say Moda Ani, either we forget to say it, or we say it like we're reading a bank statement? Because we don't think that, wow, Taka, you gave me back my life. You didn't have to give it back to me. Deep down, somewhere buried inside of us, is the understanding and the thought, what do you mean, thank you for giving me back my life? You owed me my life, man. You created me. You needed to give it back to me. Somewhere deep in there, that's the way we live. We live with expectations. I expect to have certain life and certain things happen. What this Mishna is coming to teach me is stop expecting. Hayulaydim lamus. You're not going to be here forever. You are going to die. You are a mortal human being. And therefore, the fact that you are still here is because the creator, the maker, the former, the fashioner has designed and defined that you are still going to be here. Appreciate that. Enjoy it. Feel simcha. And live life to the maximum. Okay. That's step number one. Then we got to deal with some of the